Thank you for joining us. It's great to see so many people out joining us today. Can you all hear me in the back? Can you hear? Oh, okay. Okay, great. It gives me great pleasure to kick off and just with a welcome to have all of you as business and community leaders, elected officials, our government partners, our nonprofit partners here today to listen to the panel of our fabulous site selectors that we've had in over the last 3 days. Larry's going to actually moderate the panel, and he's going to give you a little background. I just wanted to personally thank each and every one of you that have helped to make this possible. All of our 46 investing companies, as well as our 17 municipalities that are invested in the Fox Cities Regional Partnership, have made this possible, plus some really amazing partners once we got here and got the ask of what exactly we were looking for. We got a tremendous amount of support and sponsorship, time invested, that really made a difference to make this a very successful familiarization tour for these site selectors. I assure you we're going to get some great insight today of both some positive things about our community and our competitiveness, but also some things that we can work on in the future. So I'll turn it over to Larry and he can take it away. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here and to put the wrap on what has been a wonderful event, a wonderful opportunity for our communities to actually bring professional site selectors to town, have them walk the streets, meet the people, and get a sense of what it is that we have to offer here in the Fox Cities. My name is Larry Burkhart. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Fox Cities Regional Partnership. And I want to just provide, as Shannon indicated, a setting, a little bit of context as to what we're doing. I think I'm probably preaching to the choir, but I want to just give you a sense of why we were doing this. As you know, this organization is a little more than a year old. One of our biggest challenges is the fact that no one has been out selling the Fox Cities, and as such, there's very little in terms of an image of this area as a business location outside the region, and certainly outside the state of Wisconsin. So our objective was to create an awareness of our region as a job center with an audience that works with the industrial clients every day. Now we do that on many occasions. We go to their offices, we go to site selection conferences. This presented a unique opportunity where we bring them here and have them witness and experience our area on their own. So for that reason, this is a special opportunity. As Shannon indicated as well, we couldn't do this on our own. And as everything else that we do in economic development, it's a collaboration. And I want to acknowledge the key partners in this effort. There have been many, but there are a few that deserve special recognition. First of all, to Dave and Jane Voss and the folks at Myron. Dave and Jane turned open their house and hosted us, a whole group of us, for dinner on Saturday night. And for that, we're very, very grateful. They established the tone for the weekend. We want to extend our appreciation to Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Kleefisch, who joined us at dinner and welcomed each of our guests individually to Wisconsin and provided an environment and a setting for what was to happen the rest of the weekend. We want to thank Paul Klister and his company, Commercial Horizons, for the donation of the setting for our tailgate yesterday up near Lambeau Field. These folks had the chance to experience the Packer game, the Packer win yesterday, and for that we're very appreciative. Our friends and our colleagues here at Outagamie County Regional Airport who supported us with the use of this hangar, with some of the activity and the materials for the tailgate, we want to acknowledge them as well. Our investors at the Copperleaf Hotel, our folks had an opportunity to spend the last 3 nights at that great facility. And I want to take a special moment and thank the staff who put this weekend together, starting with Shannon. This was all her idea. She came to me a couple of months ago and said, we're going to do a site selector fam tour. And my reaction was less than enthusiastic, from the sense that we know how much work this is. But we pulled it off, and I think we've done a good job. And it's only because of the support that we got from the likes of Josh Duclo. Where are you, Josh? Our existing industry manager. Okay, well, he'll be back momentarily. Beth Pritzel, our project coordinator. Beth. Beth's up front here, as well as Susan Vanden Heuvel from the Chamber staff, Linda Myers from the Chamber staff. I want to acknowledge their contributions. You know, this is a very competitive environment, this economic development. Not only do we wish to market our area to the folks that we have in front of us today, but we want to learn from them how to do the best possible job that we can do in marketing our community. So we've asked them to provide their feedback. We've asked them to be honest. Probably didn't need to ask them that. That's what they do. They come in and they're going to be honest about what they saw. They're going to tell us where we're strong, but they're also going to share with us areas that we can improve on, areas that we need to improve on. So we've asked them to share that so that we can be more focused and effective in generating the kind of image that will make it more likely for us to succeed in the future. So we've been pleased to bring in a group of highly qualified and respected professionals in their field. I'm going to introduce them up front and then turn it over to them. As I introduce them, you'll gain an appreciation for the work that they've done with many premier companies, both foreign and domestic. So let me start here with David Laszlo to my right. David was born and raised in Northwest Indiana, went to Florida State University to pursue a degree in real estate, and followed up on that with a graduate degree in city and regional planning from Clemson University, where he focused on sustainable development and the relationships between the public and private sector planning. He has been with Wadley Donovan for over 2 years, primarily working on projects in the business process and outsourcing sector, including several shared service and contract centers, as well as headquarter relocations. Next to David is Brad Lindquist, and Brad joined Newmark Grubb Frank Global Services consulting practices earlier this year. He has over 17 years of experience assisting corporations in their business and facility strategies. He's provided consulting services to clients across a wide range of industries, including advanced manufacturing, aerospace, alternative energy, automotive, financial and business services, food and beverage, life sciences, retail distribution, and others. And he's worked around the world, including assignments in Belgium, Canada, Costa Rica, France, Germany, Iceland, South Korea, Malaysia, Mexico, the Netherlands, Russia, Singapore, Taiwan, and the United Kingdom, including clients such as American Express, Best Buy, Bridgestone, Chiron, Cintas, Corning, Galaxy Aerospace, Gap, and a host of others. Next to Brad, we have Brandon Talbert. Brandon comes to us from the Austin Company, located in Cleveland. He is a certified economic developer specializing in site selection, economic development, business development, marketing, research, and lead generation. Brandon is sitting next to Pete Mohan, who is from Wadley Donovan in New Jersey. Again, he provides site location services to Fortune 500 companies, including domestic and global site screens and labor market studies. He's a co-founder and director of marketing and advertising for a company called Portable Scores, where he was hired as an interim director as a part of an equity and talent exchange between Bushwhack Apps and Portable Scores, two Wisconsin tech startups. He completed a successful exit through return of equity in October of 2012. And now I need to find Josh Timberlake. Josh is a senior manager at Deloitte Consulting, based in Chicago, and he has more than 14 years of experience in advising Fortune 500 companies on their global facility and location strategy decisions. His specialties include enterprise-wide footprint management, labor market analysis, site facility inspections, utility and infrastructure analysis, operating cost conditions analysis, business risk assessment, and real estate incentive negotiations. He has worked on projects around the world again, including Argentina, Brazil, Canada, China, Costa Rica, Indonesia, Japan, Jordan, Mexico, Malaysia, Micronesia, the Philippines, Thailand, United Kingdom, Vietnam, and the U.S. And he's frequently called to write and speak about global location strategy trends around the world. Next to Josh, we have Jeff Rossate. And Jeff has 8 years of experience leading business development division for the Iowa Department of Economic Development, including financial negotiations, direct client services, staff management, marketing and sales, and as a government liaison experience with extensive communications experience, and 2.5 years as a business development specialist management VP for the Regional Economic Development Organization in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, known as Priority 1. He has 5 years of professional corporate location strategy and management consulting experience at Deloitte & Touche, with a wide array of clients from manufacturing, distribution, biotechnology, wind energy manufacturing, data centers, information technology, and back office operations. And next to Jeff, we have Bob Hess. And Bob is an executive managing director in Newmark Grubb Frank Global Corporate Services. He is a preeminent, sought-after service provider and respected leader in corporate location strategy and site selection across multiple industries and asset types in North America. He's conducted over 250 assignments on a global basis, including major CapEx projects in Asia, Europe, and Mexico. He has led strategic placement of over 40 million square feet of real estate across multiple geographies, urban, suburban, and rural, and helped secure over $1 billion in incentives to support these efforts. And our last panelist is Darren Bulow, who is a principal and national leader for Deloitte Consulting's real estate and location strategy practice, with over 20 years of experience in his field, including global location strategy, supply chain strategy, site selection, labor market analysis, footprint rationalization, distribution network management, incentive negotiations, and real estate strategy and implementation. Darren is a frequent speaker, panelist, and author on footprint optimization, location strategy, and economic development trends. And he serves on the editorial advisory board of Area Development magazine. So, pretty experienced and accomplished panel that we've had here in our community for the last 3 days. With that, I'm going to turn to David to kick us off. And what we've asked them to do is provide us just a couple of minutes of their observations, evaluation, and recommendations to us. Where are we going in the right direction, and where do we need to turn our attention to do a better job? David, it's all yours.
Hello. Thank you for having us. Hello. How are you this afternoon? Thank you for having us. I'm glad to be here. It's been a fun and informative couple of days. So I guess I'll go ahead and start off with what's probably the elephant in the room, and that'd be the high-quality workforce that you guys have here, and the strong work ethic. I think certainly you need to continue to nurture the manufacturing sector, which this area was founded on, and not only teach these skills in schools, but publicly encourage participation, and not just at the technical school level, but earlier on in high school and as early on as grammar school. It'll be important to combat the perception of being a unionized state. I'm not going to say whether I think unions are good or bad. I come from a long line of union operators. I was in a pipe fitters union myself. But what I can tell you is that our clients are asking us to confine our search territory to right-to-work states, and you know that is going to hurt you. Until the state as a whole makes that leap, it's going to be important to educate the public on the labor quality advantages that you guys have here in this area, and try to quantify them using real-world examples like Faith Industries. You know, the low turnover and the high production that comes along with this workforce. You know, that adds up, but how do you quantify that? You need to find a way and express that to companies that are curious, and educate the public on that. We had the opportunity to stay at a hotel around the corner from the Performing Arts Center. That's amazing, and that really does add to the quality of life in the area. I encourage you to continue to focus development downtown, as well as highlight the river, and focus, of course, sustainably, but highlight the river and continue to develop that area, as far as residences and businesses, as well as recreation. Heard about a music festival that you guys had earlier this year, and that's outstanding. That not only brings the community together, but it generates revenue for local businesses, and that's great. To touch on the folks that brought us here today, by all means, don't underestimate the value of your local and regional economic development groups. These folks are critical to what we do and how we seek out and ultimately help locate the companies that we work for. Our clients place a lot of emphasis on community cooperation. They want to go to a place where they feel welcome, where they feel wanted, and where they know that they're going to get the support that they need to succeed. These trips can be fun, but they're very useful, and not only for us to see beyond the data that we look at on our computers, but to see the ins and outs of what this community has to offer, and also to establish the relationships that we need to do our jobs. So when we have a project that would fit well in the Appleton area, we know who to call, and we know that we're going to get the right response in a timely manner, and that really is important. I'll make one last comment here on branding. So I realize the Fox Cities means a lot to this community, and there's a lot of history in that name. It's catchy, and they've come up with a great logo and all, but it doesn't mean that much to people outside of this area. If I tell a client they should consider the Fox Cities, the response I'm going to get is, Fox Cities, where is that? And that's not what you want. I think if Appleton is going to be the third major city in Wisconsin, along with Milwaukee and Madison, then use that. Use the name Appleton in the Fox Cities brand. You want that name out there so people hear Appleton and they know it's in northern Wisconsin. They know what they're thinking about. Well, those are my observations. So hopefully some of them were helpful. And thanks again for having us.
Thank you, David. Brad?
All right, I would echo the thanks for the opportunity to learn more about the community, the opportunity to experience the game yesterday, despite all the rain and everything else, was fantastic. So here's kind of where I ended up. I really think the most important thing when it comes to economic development is keeping your existing industry base happy and healthy. It's always fun to work projects like we do, which is perhaps attracting a new project. We also do a lot of work where it comes to consolidations. And so you want to make sure that your community is a supportive environment for the companies that you have. When we come to town, we're often doing the same meetings we had this week. We want to meet with your existing employers. We want to meet with the technical college. We want to meet with the state, with the city, with the mayors. We like to hear a consistent message. We like to hear that the businesses are finding it to be a welcoming environment for the companies that are already there. On my notes, I've got things like we met with companies that have been here over 100 years, multiple companies like that, companies with third generation leadership, as they continue to expand and grow. So you've got an amazing base of industries, manufacturing, technology, knowledge. You've got an amazing technical school that we spent a lot of time at today that was just fascinating to move from the medical wing to the culinary wing to the mechanical and electrical engineering type divisions. So it was a happening place. There was tons of people there. It was vibrant, it was clean, and it sounds like they're well connected with the industries and the companies in the community, which I think is eminently important to keep those companies happy. We spend half of our lives, I would say, in the office doing research. We're all kind of data junkies. And so that's usually the first piece of analysis for any of our clients is heavy-duty research. And it's helping to determine, based on the requirements they've given us, what makes sense for them. Where should they be expanding? Where should they be consolidating? Helping put together a program for how they're going to address that. So we do a lot. We see a lot of numbers, but numbers don't tell the whole story. Any community that's participating in one of our projects has to make it through a number of screens, modeling exercises that we go through. We're risk adverse, so we're trying to eliminate locations that are going to offer any sort of risk that we deem or our clients deem will be an impact on the project. So we look at lots of numbers, but numbers don't tell the whole story, as I mentioned. So having the opportunity to be in a community and meet with the people, meet with the leadership, and see, is it a seamless interaction? I haven't collected cards from most people I've met with this week, so I can't tell you who's with who, but I can tell you that what I saw was a high level of interaction and seamlessness for all the different entities that we met with. I'm looking forward to getting a list of all the contacts that we had and actually trying to back into how all these groups work together, because that's one of the things I'm looking for is the collaboration and the ability of everybody to work together. But I know we met people from the state, as I mentioned, the technical college, numerous business leaders in the area, the utilities, the mayors. That's very similar to what we do if we had a client sitting here next to us. We would ask similar questions. We'd get a feel for how the community works. All the businesses were in the room together talking about their experiences. You don't find that everywhere. A lot of communities, they may be competing so fiercely for labor that they don't want to be in the room with their neighbor down the street or one of the competing industries. So those are things that we're looking for. The mayor said that when we met with him this afternoon, Mayor Hanna, it's not a city, it's a community. And one of the things that Dave mentioned, the mayor mentioned, is each community has its own history, its own identity, and that's very important. That's the sense of communityism that you have. But as David mentioned, one of the things from an outsider standpoint, this is a section of Wisconsin that if you're not familiar with, you don't have an identity to go with it yet. My own perspective, I moved around a lot, but I graduated high school from southern Wisconsin. I went away from Wisconsin for university. I live in Chicago now. That's where my job is. My parents are in northern Wisconsin, so I drive by here a couple times a year on my race from beating traffic from downtown Chicago to northern Wisconsin and then back to the city with the kids. And I didn't know much about this area. I drive by it all the time. I hadn't worked here and I hadn't stopped here. So this has been a great opportunity to expand my knowledge of a state I actually spent some time growing up in. And I think that's important. And I think building that brand and being able to disseminate that brand out into the markets can be important, because you all know how great it is here. But you need to be on the radar for people like us, and you need to be in the market so other companies realize what an asset is up here and what a tremendous opportunity it is to really leverage all the things in place. One of the things, and this is just a function of not having enough time in the market just yet, and some of the things that we're researching, but one of the things I haven't seen yet, and we'll look into as we go forward, is kind of what I would envision to be kind of new economy type companies and jobs developing in the market. It's such a fabulous base of, as I mentioned earlier, a variety of industries. I mean, you make vehicles, you fit out planes, you make food, paper, fire trucks. I mean, there's an amazing variety to the manufacturing that happens here, and I think you could honestly build anything, process or manufacture anything in the area. But I'm curious how the region's going to evolve with participating in technology, attracting creative class type jobs, that people that want to live wherever they want to live and they'll find a job where they work remotely. We didn't see a lot of that. We didn't have a chance, like I said, to see everything, but that's one of the things that I'd be interested in, is kind of how we can expand the footprint of everything that's here already and fabulous to be more reflective of some of the technology and kind of a new economy type opportunities that are out there. We saw a lot of investment and discussions with healthcare. I mean, healthcare is a big industry. So just how you're positioning with some of those key assets that'll be big growth drivers for the future. And I think for now, I'll wrap it up and pass it on. I think we have questions later as well. Yes. Okay, excellent. Thank you again.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to, first of all, start by thanking everyone that I've had an opportunity to meet. You've been very hospitable this weekend. This is my first time in this region. I've really enjoyed the last few days and getting to know some of you and learn more about the area, so that, you know, in the future, as we're working with our clients and we're evaluating this area as a potential location, I'll have the ability to speak more, you know, more knowledgeably about the region and the assets here, and it's just been, you know, I guess I could start by saying I didn't have much of a perception of the area, so you know, coming in with just a fresh mind, so over the last few days I've really just been soaking all this up, and so just some initial observations. I understand the regional partnerships here is a relatively new initiative, and I would just say that when we're working with communities, when we're looking at communities, it's important for us to have a single point of contact that can really help us with collecting information when we're looking at sites. And this is certainly a regional economy. A lot of communities within your service territory here, and just being able to work with someone that can take us out, show us properties, connect us with the business community, business leaders, technical training resources, those sorts of things are really important. So I would just encourage you to continue to, you know, cooperate at a regional level. I think just it seems like the business community, the local government people that I've met here really seem to be embracing that concept, and I think that's important for continued success. The you know, the competition continues to increase at a global level. We have many options when we're working with our clients on where we recommend that they consider. So you know, I just think being mindful that there are you know, limited opportunities, and you want to be able to put your best foot forward to compete for every opportunity that you have. You know, not every project we have could look at this area for a number of reasons. From a logistics perspective, I'll be honest with you, and this is something, you know, you can't do anything about, but we tend to look you know, a little east and a little south of here for a lot of our projects. That's okay. You know, sometimes we're looking at the West Coast, sometimes we're looking exclusively at the Southeast, but we do look at the upper Midwest exclusively for some projects from a logistics reason. So, you know, being able to understand how we operate, the types of factors we look at, and again, being able to assist with that data collection, I think is key, as some of my colleagues here have mentioned. We're very data-driven people. And just something else I wanted to mention here is just my observation is there certainly seems to be a collaborative effort here on behalf of the business community, the public sector, and the private sector. You know, I would again continue to encourage you to continue to improve those relationships. Just the number of people that showed up for this, it's very, very impressive. The technical college, Fox Valley, that we looked at this afternoon, I just want to say I've been to a lot of technical colleges. That's a very impressive facility. The programs, I did not expect that. Across the board, I was just blown away by the programs, the investment that's been made into that facility. It's pretty remarkable, and I think that's something that's very important when we're working with our clients. The technical training resources is something we look closely at as we're evaluating communities, and you know, most of our clients are manufacturing. Specifically, our firm works with a lot of food processing companies, so we're looking at the ability to recruit workers. We're looking at having a trained workforce, and these are challenges for a lot of our clients, and they're challenges for them at the locations that a lot of their facilities are in. So that's just a tremendous asset, and I would encourage you to just promote that more, and be able to quantify that and put some data together to really show these are the types of programs we have to offer here, and you may be doing some of these things. This is just my initial perspective, not being familiar with it until today. So just having that data out there and continuing to promote that asset is really important. And let's see here. I just want to say the other thing, and a couple of my colleagues here alluded to this, but entrepreneurship, that's critical. You've got such a history here of businesses that have been around for 100+ years, 50 years. We talked to some businesses this morning that have well-established roots in the community, and I think that's important. To continue to position yourselves to grow in the future. Just fostering a culture of entrepreneurship, working with people who want to start new businesses, and building that base for the future is really important. So those are just some of my initial observations, and if you have questions later, I'll be glad to answer.
Just to echo everyone else's sentiments, thanks for having me. Thus far, it's been a great weekend, and everyone that I've met, as I've known Wisconsinites in the past, to be very friendly and hospitable. Me, myself, I am originally from outside of Detroit. I can relate to the type of blue-collar atmosphere here, and both my grandpas worked for GM, and to see the thriving industrial work going on here in transportation manufacturing, it's a strong base to build your economy on, and that's very encouraging. One thing to play off of that is that one of the strengths that I've noticed is that you've built a strong foundation of more than one industry, and we've seen how when a city like Detroit builds itself on just one industry, it can collapse. But there's diversity here, and we met with some community leaders earlier today. There's a strong presence of electrical contractors, with the hydroelectric history. I guess I'm gonna have to speak up here over this plane, but in addition to that, you have the food packaging and processing with the advent of new agricultural technologies. That's a gap that we could take advantage of here. Like I mentioned, the transportation manufacturing, we have Gulfstream here, and the Pierce firefighting facility, or fire trucks, and other similar industries like that. So you have a breadth of industry, but with a firm foundation, like we mentioned before, the Fox Valley Technical College is going to be supplying you with solid labor for years to come. And so my advice would be to build upon that group of assets that you have. One suggestion would be to, as Brandon mentioned, foster entrepreneurship. You have so many established business leaders in these industries that have been successful, and we've met a lot of successful business owners over the weekend, and there's definitely someone to learn from. And well, as these companies mature and we pass the torch to a new generation, there's still going to be some gaps in the local economy for organic growth and developing manufacturing companies. So maybe forming some sort of partnership between the industrial companies and manufacturing companies in the area that sort of held the hand of young entrepreneurs, these people that are going to Fox Valley Tech, that maybe they envision themselves only doing maintenance or something like that, but they have an entrepreneurial drive and they have brilliant ideas that they can, start creating their own jobs here in the area, and foster some organic growth of jobs, because we can only grow so much. Can you guys hear me back there? Great. So I think my advice would be to just continue to take advantage of the assets that you have. Tout them and educate the young people, and continue to innovate. In addition to the industrial innovation that you guys have had here, and we met Bob Peterson of Goodwill, and you guys are really doing a lot of collaboration in terms of social entrepreneurship, whether you realize it or not. The way that everyone in this community collaborates and giving back, and the presence of nonprofits, you're fostering growth without even realizing it. And these partnerships that have continued to expand your community just by the hard work and the natural partnerships that you have from your friendships in the community, that has bolstered a lot of your businesses, because you have each other's backs. So I would say continue to take advantage of that and take lessons from yourselves in what has been successful through your collaboration to build those businesses, and continue to apply that to all of your industry in the area, and you'll see some steady growth. So I'm going to pass it on now to Josh.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. First of all, I'll echo what a few people have said. I think the partnership has done a great job. Very happy to be here. We've learned a lot about the region, and really there are a lot of strengths of the area, both for business growth and business attraction, that I've either become aware of or become more aware of over the last couple days. And I guess the way I've really started to think about those is from a business attraction standpoint. There's some of those that are going to help get you on a short list of communities, and those are the ones that really need to be kind of data-driven factors. When we're sitting back in our office and we're looking through 3,200 counties in the U.S., for example, for a new manufacturing project, what are the things that are going to make the Fox Cities area jump out at us? And there are some strengths that you have in that respect. Things like a very high location quotient in certain industries. There's a lot of paper manufacturing and food and advanced manufacturing here. Along with that, there's workforce that is very oriented towards, and this can be proven out with data. There's a lot of engineers, there's a lot of maintenance people, there's a lot of technicians, and so on. And I think there are some of those strengths that you have that will help you get on a short list. Other ones might be it's a low natural disaster risk area. For example, there are some new programs that the state has that is helping Wisconsin get noticed more. And I would emphasize to the partnership and others who are out doing external business attraction to focus on those factors that can be data-driven and that you can prove out with statistics. There are a lot of strengths that we heard about as well over the last couple days that are things that are more softer factors: collaboration and work ethic and a healthy community, and things that are important, and when we come to a place like this, we spend a couple of days doing due diligence. We meet with individuals and community leaders and companies. Those things will come out over the course of the discussion, but in terms of kind of the marketing people who are out championing the message, everybody says that, and it kind of sounds the same to us. So I would emphasize letting those things kind of come out over the course of a visit, and focusing on some of those factors that are going to get people here initially that can be proven out with data. The very strong industry presence that you have for certain industries, the strong occupational presence, and so on. So I guess my main message is be, as much as you can, self-aware of what those factors are that can be proven out with data, and try to get the data to support them.
Good afternoon. Again, I'm going to use the same word. I'd like to echo a lot of the commentary from my colleagues up here, but I also want to point out a few things that I think are also critical to you and to us. And one of those is I have actually an interesting connection with Appleton, and it's most recent actually in the last few years, and that is you took our chamber director away from us in my hometown. Shannon Full over here actually used to be the chamber director in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where I currently reside. And I do want to say that you have an amazing asset in Shannon. She is a tremendous leader. She guided my community through one of the worst natural disasters in the U.S. And pray that you never have to see that type of situation. But what that brought to you was somebody who has experience with diversity, disasters, issues that no individual would normally encounter. And the application of that knowledge and that experience, I think, is critical when you look at tackling the hard issues that include economic development. There's a lot of change occurring still and will continue to change in this country as it relates to economic development. And those challenges are not small. I don't want to sound doom and gloom, just realistic about this. And what is being put together here is actually rather impressive. People take it for granted in their own communities, not just here, but typically take it for granted how nice of an area they have, whether it's a place to live or the diversity of the industry, and those things need to be tended to significantly and continuously. A lot of your growth will come from your existing industry over the next decade, 2 decades. Pay attention to those industries. You have some very good, solid, foundational industries that have been here for well over 100 years. You want them to be here for another 100 years. We heard over the course of this visit the challenges that have occurred in the paper industry, for instance, the cost structures that are being driven towards you by the global economy in paper. Attend to that. How are you going to help those existing companies maintain their operations and grow their operations? A lot of it will be through creative ways of innovation. Some of that is done locally, some of that is done collaboratively through training. Some of it may be state policy based. It depends on that situation, but do not dismiss that. Unfortunately, as we've heard, there's examples around the US, such as Detroit, where some of those lessons are learned in a very hard way. And where that becomes interesting and critical for us sitting up here on the panel is how a community reacts. Because as we are working for our clients who make the final decisions as to where they locate, they want to know how flexible, how adaptive, and how strong is a community to affect them in a positive way. What we do in site selection and in economic development is truly based a lot on data. A significant amount of that is on data. But a lot of it is also on relationships and knowing who we can contact, who we can trust, and how quickly they can respond to the needs of our clients and us. And that is key. And so these events we take very seriously. We don't do very many of these because we are busy just like you. And we want to make sure that if we are looking in this part of the US or this part of the world, that we know that we can count on Shannon or the state or anyone else to respond as quickly as possible. In terms of data, actually I'm going to step back here in my notes. I apologize, I'm jumping around, but regional development. Again, something that's probably taken a little bit for granted up here. We heard some very good examples today about collaborative arrangements. Sometimes they're called 28E agreements, but frankly they're as simple as mayors in a region getting together and basically saying, look, we're going to work together for the betterment of everybody from a community level, a regional level, not just a political boundary level. And that is something that, I would certainly say you've got to continue to work on. Not that it's bad, in fact, it's great. Don't let that slide. You have a mayor in Appleton, at least, that's been the mayor for 17 years. That's a track record that's pretty significant. That says something to us in terms of the stability of the area, and things are going in the right direction or continuing in the right direction. What I would say in terms of an observation is break down any barriers, whatever they may be, to expand the regional footprint at a certain level. Maybe it's just a marketing level to include Oshkosh or even Green Bay. I understand those things are not easy, but to get on our radar, or frankly the radar of corporate clients, the broader messaging you can have to encompass the largest area and all of the assets within that, the better off you're going to be. Not just nationally, but really globally. I mean, it's hard enough, frankly, for individuals in international locations to know where Iowa is, where I live, maybe even Wisconsin, let alone where Appleton or Little Chute or any of the other communities are. It is a challenge, so getting that messaging out is key. Again, messaging, get on the map, and part of getting on the map is hosting events like this, going to the right events, meeting with targeted companies, meeting with the headquarters of existing industry. If that's one thing that I would stress more than anything, is that you should have Larry and Shannon traveling to the headquarters for any operation that is not headquartered here, that has the opportunity to expand and grow within your targets. That is key. Your visual appeal. My assessment, you've got a beautiful area. We've been told it's safe. We've been told it's clean. I haven't experienced the safe standpoint. Well, I guess I have. Nothing's happened. But from a cleanliness standpoint, you know, that is sometimes not necessarily a factor that we are going to eliminate an area on, but it is key when we actually have clients, corporate leadership visiting a community. If they're going to live there, they want to live in a nice community. I won't name the name of the community nor the client, but Mr. Hess and I used to work together, and going back about 13 years, I'll give you a little bit of it. We visited a community in the southeast, and they were extremely happy and prideful of their community. I would say it was probably one of the least desirable communities from a visual standpoint that we ever visited. And a lot of that came down to they didn't understand that this is a critical aspect of how they're viewed externally. So the little things also do matter. They do add up, and they are going to impact. It may not be the first thing, but it is still something to be aware of. I mentioned this once already, but I'm going to continue on this as well. Continue to work on state policy matters that affect business. The divide between business and those that are potentially against business-related policy need to take a little bit different approach at looking at this. We are all in this together, and it does affect it because we are, and our clients are evaluating the state first before they even look here locally. I'll let you determine which factors are important to your businesses, but you need to look at this on a much broader level, even for small and medium enterprises. What we also saw here is that you have a tremendous export base, and that's not just Pierce Fire Truck or the larger companies in the paper sector. It is the entire supply chain that is affected by that. So consider that as you're moving forward. I think with that, I will probably turn it over to Mr. Hess after one comment, and that is, one comment. This panel here represents approximately 100 years of experience in corporate site location work. A majority of it is sitting to my right, and they are extremely good at, and they are extremely good at what they do. But we collectively work on a significant variety of projects across a significant and broad geography, and we appreciate the opportunity to have come here, to have been hosted here. We understand that it's not an easy endeavor for anybody, but we appreciate this opportunity. And if it's the appropriate situation for our clients, we will look here. Thank you.
Jeff, thanks for that compliment. Oh, no, thank you. Yeah, Bob Hess here, and I thank you so much for the reception. I feel somewhat qualified to talk about Appleton because I'm from Superior, Wisconsin. I grew up there, I went to school, I know northern Wisconsin. This is not quite northern Wisconsin, I understand, but it's not that much different. I understand work ethic and productivity. I understand working together. And this whole issue of collaboration and co-opetition, well, I saw the epitome of that yesterday because you let me wear a Vikings jersey to Lambeau Field. So anyway, but I will echo, I'm not quite sure to do with this. There's a lot of intangible advantages in this community. You know, we like to look for hooks around low cost, non-union, certified sites, the lowest electric power costs, the best this, the lowest that, okay? You're not at either end of those extremes, but there's a couple areas where you do excel, and you have to prove it. So you're going to talk about work ethic and productivity. I believe it. We heard it from industry. The cost of turnover, the cost of quality. You ever think about that? That's one of the reasons why companies are backshoring into the United States, is the issue of obviously rising costs overseas, but there's the issue of cost of quality. I would call this area, based upon what I've heard and from presidents and VPs of companies, one of the best cost of quality avoiders in the world. So how do you quantify that, right? That work ethic, that productivity, that cost of quality, a fantastic asset. And believe me, there's a lot of communities out there across the U.S. saying, hey, we have the best work ethic and the most productive workforce and the best skills in the United States. So prove it. And you prove it by getting existing industry with testimonials and talking to people like us today. Keep that up. You can brand around productivity and work ethic, but you're going to have to stay in it for the long run. It can't just be a snippet or a short headline. And you all know how you work together in that area. That's just a very strong area that just stood out. I want to comment about this whole not-for-profit area, this collaboration, this working together. What about that not-for-profit sector? There are areas across the country like Milwaukee a couple years ago, and my colleagues here worked in this, and I thought it was a brilliant strategy, where they had tons of water there. Well, they became a water cluster, and they looked at water technology and getting research and education centers. You have the basis here to be one of the best not-for-profit, best practices clusters in the country. Not-for-profit education, not-for-profit research, very, very interesting best practices. I'm very impressed by those intangible factors. And I'm not talking about manufacturing here, right, or distribution or call centers. I'm talking about those intangible skill sets of working together, collaboration, sharing, best practices, philanthropy. I'm very impressed by that. And those are very important factors at the end of our site selection projects. Can-do attitude, working together, getting it done, getting it over the goal line, working together, shared resources, shared risk and reward. Those are very, very powerful attributes for this region. I'm very impressed. Back to some of the realities of our world. So your critical mass of population here is roughly 227,000. That's the metro. That's right about at the beginning point where we look at projects nationally and regionally. You're at a turning point. Is that enough scale? Let's say if we had a 500-person operation, it could be a call center, it could be back office, it could be a medium-sized manufacturer, and they say, hey, we want to look at the Midwest. How do you get on the radar? So I think your data and your business intelligence strategies, you're going to have to amp that up a little bit. If you're going to go external, you're going to have to make sure you position yourself appropriately. Is that it? 227,000 people at 0.9% annual growth. Okay, people are going to see that's almost no growth. So can you scale in this community? And we heard that you can. There's 1,000+ employers here. People don't know that. So scalability and sustainability of workforce, if you're going to be involved in the attraction game, is going to be a very important factor. Back to my colleagues here talking about data, what's on your website, and proving that. Okay? Also, I had pleasure here with my colleague here, Darren, and Josh, to work on a study about 3.5 years ago called Be Bold, Wisconsin, the competitiveness study. We were authors for that study. We were honored to be part of that. Well, most of us from Wisconsin, and we saw a burning platform for advanced manufacturing. And so did the people at that time. This was back in 2008 and 2009. So I guess the question is, as Wisconsin goes, so does the Fox Cities? Is that a true statement? Or does the Fox Cities become more, I'll call it, independent of what the state does? I'm not going to answer that question for you, but you've got some very unique attributes. You have very unique clusters. You have some very unique intangibles here. If you want to brand externally, I think you've got to be aligned with the state of Wisconsin on many issues that they're improving upon. In that study, we cited a lot of issues, and Governor Walker and team have done a great job at addressing some of those. But if you're ready to go external in the attraction game, you've got your own brand and identity to establish amongst smaller micropolitan areas and smaller metropolitan areas for certain types of industries. So I would like to say a lot more, and I don't have any time to, but I'm very impressed with the area, and this whole issue of export-import, I would encourage you that also. Areas of agricultural and food, best in the world, right? Paper, best in the world. What about chemicals? And working with Europe and Asia on that side. I believe some folks are already looking at that. And then what about know-how? How do you could your know-how in this area, these skills, the electricians and their know-how, could actually be could you export knowledge here and actually make that a service that will help you grow this region? There's some things to think about. So thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Jeff, for making me feel older than I've felt in a long time. It's been said many times, but I will also start by thanking the Fox Cities group for making today and this whole weekend possible. You know, these kinds of experiences for site selectors like us are very sticky. We remember what we experience. We're in business to be knowledgeable about locations. And when you spend 3 days in a location, that's really going to stand out in our minds. We are people who typically will spend 1.5 to 2.5 hours in a community and then get on to the next community. So when we have a unique opportunity like this to really spend a lot of time in a community, to really talk to a lot of people, to have a lot of conversations in both a business and a social setting, that sticks for us. So thank you very much. This is a lot of work to put on. Larry, Shannon, Beth, the whole team, you guys did a great job. Thank you. So everything you're hearing from us as site selectors, we look at the world through a pretty unique lens. We are professional skeptics. As Bob said, we like to say prove it. In our shop, it's trust and then verify again, and then verify again. Because believe me, we've heard it all. Every community we go to says they have a phenomenal quality of life. Every community we go to, they say the workforce here is without equal. You can get more work done with our labor than any place else. We've heard that 10,000 times. The electricity never goes out. All the children are above average. You guys get the idea. And so, you know, we kind of have to have our bull detectors on all the time. And when we spend 3 days like we've spent here, I think we have a better sense of what's genuine than what we normally would have to do and rely on a lot of desktop data and analysis. So we've gotten to know some of you. We've gotten to know this community over the last couple of days. And I think you've heard some of the observations that my colleagues on this panel have offered. The lens that we look through as site selectors forces us to view communities from a cost perspective and a non-cost and risk perspective. We think about cost in terms of tax, real estate, labor, utilities, logistics, and incentives. We think about non-cost attributes in terms of operating risk, in terms of natural disaster risk, the quality of the workforce, how strong is the local leadership, and a whole host of other intangibles. These are the variables that we consider when we're looking at a community. What I saw here over the last couple of days has been largely extremely positive. As a Wisconsinite by birth myself and education, I knew quite a bit about the Fox Cities. I've been to most of the Fox Cities through one course of business or pleasure or another. But this weekend opened my eyes to a lot of different things. This community, the Fox Cities, has what a lot of communities in the United States wish that they had. That is a fact. You have good schools. In fact, you could say you have great schools. We don't necessarily have the data yet on how great those schools are, but we heard it from enough people that I think we believe it. You have a very low crime community. You have a very safe community, a very clean community. No one is afraid to walk anywhere in this community at any hour of the day. And by community, I guess I'm referring to the region. You have a manufacturing industry that far exceeds the U.S. average in terms of percentage of jobs working in manufacturing. This is a region that makes things in a state that makes things. Wisconsin's still #1 in terms of manufacturing location quotient. More people working in Wisconsin manufacturing per capita than any other state. That is extremely desirable. There are a lot of communities that wish that they just had those few attributes right there. But with that foundation, you're also like a great restaurant that's been built in the North Woods that nobody's ever heard of. You might have a great roof and wonderful, granite tables, and you source the best food on the planet, and it's made in a very particular way, but the message isn't out there. You're competing with other states, other countries, other counties, other cities that have resources that far exceed yours. They have invested in proactive economic development in a way that communities in Wisconsin are not accustomed to investing. For many years, the Economic Development Group in Lake County, Illinois, outspent Forward Wisconsin by a factor of 2. One county in Illinois spending double what the state would spend in terms of economic development. As Bob said, we worked on the Be Bold Wisconsin project with WEDC now in place. I believe that you have a partner at the state that is committed to marketing this state and is committed to bringing more business to the state. I also believe that with this new regional group you've created and with New North, its regional partner, you are now positioned to change the story, change the narrative, and be able to articulate the value proposition of this region much more effectively. And when it comes down to value proposition, that's my one message for you, is how do you articulate the intangible value propositions that you have that are not going to be easy to describe? When every place we go to claims to have an extremely productive workforce, how can you prove it? And you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to prove it to professional skeptics that are going to give you about 3 minutes to prove it. And that's a tough one. It doesn't matter if you have to pay your people an extra $3,000 a year compared to someplace in the Southeast. If you can build a plant and only employ 90 of them instead of 100 of them somewhere else. If you can get the same amount of work done with 90 men that elsewhere it takes 100, that's a story that you can tell, even if you have to pay them more. It's total cost per unit. And to be able to find examples of that in your community and be able to cite them and articulate them and make that part of your value proposition is going to be key to your success. As Bob said, this whole economy is moving towards cost of quality. And that's what this productivity definition is about. You're a community that has an abundant water supply. You're a community that invests in itself through not-for-profits. This is a caring community. I think that came out loud and clear. These are assets that a lot of other places wish that they had. You're a community that can offer jobs to spouses. You're a community that has a manufacturing ecosystem that far exceeds, in certain segments, in certain industries, what other places can offer in terms of flexible packaging, in terms of aerospace, transportation, manufacturing, paper. But I believe that there's another level here that you haven't gotten at yet, and that's skill presence. How many stainless steel welders are in this community, in the Fox Cities? I can tell you from my own experience, before this weekend, I knew that the Fox Valley, the Fox Cities, has an abundance of stainless steel capable workers, people that know how to process that metal, people that know how to work with it. They've worked with it their whole lives. The paper mills need lots of these people. How do you quantify that? I remember working with a community in Pennsylvania many years ago, and they wanted to understand what their assets were. And what we found out by looking at skills was that they had 4 different nursing colleges in that community, and they generated a flow of nursing graduates that was 7 times the U.S. average. They had no clue. All of a sudden, they realized they had an asset of excess nurses. This is an asset. What skills assets do we have here? I'm not talking necessarily about industries, but skills and occupations. Millwrights, stainless steel welders, electricians, etc. To define that and make that part of the value proposition is going to be key for you. I too was really impressed with Fox Valley Technical College. I believe that that is an undersold asset. I believe that that is something that is an achievement that you have, a crown jewel that you have, that the value of which needs to be better articulated. Because every town that we go to has a swimming pool, a McDonald's, and a tech college. You guys have a swimming pool, you got lots of McDonald's, and you got a tech college. We hear it everywhere. And if we didn't have the luxury of several hours to spend at that tech college, we would have missed it. Right, guys? Yeah, absolutely. We would have missed it. Your tech school graduates probably 5 times what we're used to seeing in terms of graduate flow. You place 75 to 90% of them into jobs within the first 6 months. You have a number of programs, a body of programs at that tech school that far exceeds what we're used to seeing. That needs to be part of the value proposition because it's unique and it's different. It's much more than we've got a great tech school. We hear platitudes like great or one of the best or best in the US, and we kind of ignore it because we don't know if we're being sold to. Show us the data. We want the data. Prove it. Trust and verify. If you look through this lens at your messages, you'll begin to see how we see the world. I guess with that, Larry, let me turn it back to you.
Thank you, Darren. And thank you to all of you. Let's give our guests a round of applause. You know, they talked about acknowledging the fact that it's not necessarily easy to put on an event like this, and I want to acknowledge the fact that these folks are very busy in their own businesses, and we appreciate them taking the time to come and visit our community and enjoy the Fox Cities with us for a brief period of time. We have a little bit of time yet. We're going to put them on an airplane and send them back home here before long. But we wanted to give you an opportunity to ask questions, make comments with regard to their evaluation. Our Phil Donahue is right over here with a microphone. So if you have something you'd like to ask or some comment that you'd like to make, please raise your hand and Josh will get the microphone right over to you.
I'm actually going to start.
Oh, okay.
Our state representative Murphy had a question, although he had to leave. He's asked that I ask the question, poll everyone on the panel, and report back to him. So I have some specific instructions. So everyone on the panel, if you could rate between 1 and 10 on less important to most important, how important is right to work in attracting new industry to the area?
You want to do a reverse order?
Yeah, let me go first. So I know you just asked for a numerical answer, but that's not going to be possible. So I assume you're talking manufacturing, and a manufacturing attraction project. How important is right to work? For some of our manufacturing clients, they recognize that most new manufacturing that deploys in the United States, regardless of whether it goes to a right to work state or a non-right to work state, does not automatically become unionized. Okay? So most of our clients are willing to look past that binary right to work or non-right to work and zoom in on other union-related factors. We do have a segment of our flow of projects where they do want us to eliminate all non-right to work states right off the bat. So from my perspective, I would say that happens about 1/3 of the time. So I would give this a 3 or 4 out of 10, that it's that important for us.
I'm going to echo much of that, but I'm going to use a timeline with respect to this question. So I think back, I guess, Jeff, I'm going to show my age, right? Back in the late 80s and 90s working on projects like this. And let's say that you're working for a trucking company or an automotive company. This is going to be a big issue. For them, it was about flexible work arrangements. It was about how they could add new lines and compete as the globe was really coming at them. So a lot of this is about competitiveness, flexibility, agility on the floor, okay? And that does translate for some people into this right-to-work issue, collective bargaining agreements, things of that sort, right? So I agree with Darren on that. For certain industries, it's going to be pretty important. But over time, this whole issue around union, non-union has softened. People have learned, positively, negatively. I'm not saying which side I'm on, but I think they realize now we're competing in a global economy. This is about getting things done. This is about being agile and working together, the epitome of this community. We heard from 2 executives in this group that union and non-union people work side by side in this community in a very collaborative, productive way. Okay? So I think if we take some of those traditional industries that I just discussed and moved it into small and medium enterprise and other types of things, then I'm going to be down on the 1 or 2 or 3 low-end scale, and I'm going to be up in the 7, 8, or 9 for some of these traditional industries. Okay?
I'm going to take a slightly different approach to this and put on my old economic development hat while I worked at the state of Iowa, which is a right-to-work state. And on occasion, we competed against neighboring states that were non-right-to-work states, state of Illinois, state of Minnesota, here as well. We lost projects to those states in the manufacturing arena and in other arenas. It was not, for the most part, the driving force in a decision. It does become a factor of consideration, but there's more to it. There's more depth to it than just that. I would echo also Bob and Darren's comments that it's probably in certain situations a 3 and 4, maybe a little bit higher in others. It truly gets to be very specific with a client. Now, Darren, I will say from an experience level, you've been working more on the corporate location timeline than I have. When I was with, this is my second tour of duty with Deloitte, I'll put it that way. The first tour of duty, I recall only 2 clients in 6 years that were very specific about eliminating states based on that designation. But that's only my personal experience. And that was, again, over a decade ago. So I think the situation has changed. It is much more about how collaborative the workforce is in terms of employing new techniques, new technology for everybody to be competitive. And it's more about the skill base that exists in the area versus whether it's union or not, for the most part. So.
Sure. So Darren is my boss, so my numerical answer is going to be same as his, the 3 or 4, whatever he said. But I would just add and emphasize that a lot of our clients do want to look past that binary factor, and they're more interested in not just right to work versus non-right to work, but other maybe deeper indicators. How many elections have there been recently in the area over the last 5 or 10 years? How many of those were in the manufacturing sector versus government or services? How many of the companies who are organized are legacy unions that have been there for the past 80 years versus companies that have been recently organized in the last 3 to 5 years or upon new entry into the region? So overall, I would say there's an additional and probably many additional layers of data that our clients are interested in beyond just the right to work versus non-right to work.
Just to echo some of their sentiments, I think part of it varies with the closed-mindedness of the executives that you're working with. Some of them, like they said, will just eliminate it right away, and I think that's important because you're eliminating opportunities for jobs right off the bat. If there is a positive justification for not being right to work, and you're pitting yourself against other Great Lakes states that have become right to work, play it to your advantage if you can. But like we've said, there are companies that will just take you right off the table immediately, and unfortunately that's preventing jobs from entering the state, I believe. So probably about a 5, I would say.
I've had the opportunity. Sorry about that. I'm going to keep my thumb on it. I've had the opportunity to work with several clients recently that looked at this issue pretty closely, have asked us to look at it pretty closely, and really have asked us what our opinion is, what our experience shows, and you know, particularly with regards to specific types of unions. And that's something that we do a lot of research on when we're working with our client. If they have facilities that are unionized, what unions are they dealing with? What unions should we be looking at in potential locations? Is there a strong presence of those particular unions or other unions that may be likely to, for example, in the food processing industry, organize for that facility? Most of our clients are clear, though, that they don't want their new facility to be unionized. So from that perspective, balancing that with you know, the research that we have to do, and certainly whether it's a right-to-work state or not a right-to-work state, we have to do our homework. Just because you locate to a state that has not passed right-to-work legislation doesn't mean that, or I'm sorry, just if you locate to a state that has passed right-to-work legislation doesn't mean that you're going to not deal with you know, union challenges. So I would say, you know, maybe a 4, 5. Balancing out those considerations.
The only thing I would add is that we don't have the luxury or the opportunity to work with every client out there making location decisions. I think in general, entities that are more risk adverse and savvier may have a higher tendency to bring in a professional to help them, and we can walk them through that issue and educate them a little bit. But you know, we don't. There's a lot of projects that we don't work on, and I think a lot of those clients aren't quite as savvy, and they're probably going to make that decision right up front, and you won't know about the project because it won't look here.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the end, it really comes down to cost and productivity. I mean, that is the bottom line, and each individual company's past experiences. You know, if you're a manufacturing company from New York and you've been paying outrageous wages for several years and watching people stand around eating lunch, they're gonna have a different opinion than someone maybe from somewhere else. I think beyond the policy itself, it sends a message from the state level that the state is changing with the times and is open for business. And particularly, it's important in the Midwest because a lot of the state competitors in this area, like Indiana, are now going right to work. And it's certainly going to make companies, I think, look perhaps a little harder at those states. So I might go a little higher than some others up here and say maybe probably an 8.
Let me ask you a question as well. We're told that there's perhaps as many as 200 of you folks who are active throughout the country, site selectors. And with that relatively small number, you get bombarded with everything from trinkets to emails to newsletters to four-color brochures, et cetera, most of which we understand finds its way quickly to the round file. With that as a kind of a baseline, can you talk about the fact, well, let me further say, we've enjoyed having you here. We'd love to have the other 192 come, but the reality is that's not going to happen anytime soon. So given that situation where we need to make approaches to you, could you describe what you feel to be the most effective way to reach you and to get on your radar screen in an effective way?
Well, yes, we are very busy. Some of us fly maybe 150,000 miles in the air every year, some more, some years, some not much less. I mean, it's pretty intense. A lot coming at us. So what we really want is, you know, we're sponges about business intelligence. I'll use that word, business intelligence. So Darren and everybody else talked about proving it, data, anecdotes, success stories. Why did Kimberly-Clark add 1,000 people last month, right? That's very important information because there's a lot, we know a lot of energy and a lot of thought went into making those decisions about that line, about the skills, about the business climate to make those type of decisions. On the other side of that too, why did you incubate a 3-person project in this region? How did you do that? Do you have venture capital? All those types of things. So we want to hear about success stories, small and large. We want to see them in email by largely, very short, to the point. Don't send big brochures and boxes with, little bells on them and stuff like that. We get that all the time. Don't waste your money on that. This is professional. This is about relationships. This is about facts. It's about business intelligence. It's about, promoting your area and branding it, not in an, erroneous, bad way. It's really about what's the hook. Darren mentioned the value proposition. Those are some words that I'd like you to remember, and those are small, focused around those issues of data, business intelligence, proving it, real life stories, success stories. We love to see that. And that could be even like if you've decided to put a 1,000-acre certified mega site in this region. I'm not saying you should do that. It's not a recommendation. Okay, but just those things where people have come together and done special initiatives, we don't know that because we're moving very fast. So it's really about that.
So my comments on that would be, first of all, coming to our office. We are very busy, and as Bob says, and he's very rarely in his office, reaching out, though, to say, I'm going to be in your community, Chicago or Bridgewater, that actually it works. It does work. We have economic development groups weekly seek us out, and if we're not available, maybe our colleagues are. But if we're able to meet with officials from a community, the one thing that I would ask is make sure that you have your story consistent and concise and meaningful. The most useless meeting is when we have a community come in and say, so what are you guys working on? We don't offer that up. We can't offer that up. We have given of our time. You have spent the money to come to Chicago or elsewhere. What is going on that we don't know, that we need to know about the Fox Cities region? Give us something of tangible nature that we can think about. Focus on key industries, whatever it may be. The information that you provide may not always be rosy either. It may be, hey, we just had a 1,000-person operation, hopefully not, close, which means we also have 1,000 skilled individuals that may be available. So also think of it from that standpoint, that what may be a negative could also potentially be a positive.
I'll just quickly pile on. I'll say whatever the communication is going to be to site selection consultants, it has to be your elevator speech, right? Y'all know what an elevator speech is. So if you've got 30 seconds with an executive to tell them why the Fox Cities, what are the 3 things you want that person to know? That's really different about the Fox Cities. And if you're going to go with, we've got great schools, we've got great quality of life, and we've got, no crime or extremely productive labor, and you can't prove it, it's worthless. Some of your assets just make you equal to every other small town in America. What are those assets that you have that make you absolutely different from every other small town in America? And turn that into your elevator speech, and that should be what you market to guys like this, because that'll stick with them. They get bombarded with every quality of life, great schools, productive workforce message you can imagine from all 3,146 counties in the United States and a lot of other countries. So that's not going to stick. But if you can make it stick, then it's different and it's absolutely unique to you. We are #1 in the nation at this. We have more stainless steel welders per capita than any other place on the planet. I don't care what it is, but make sure it's absolutely unique and then market to these guys.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes.
We're developing a state-of-the-art training section with UW Fox Valley on the airport grounds. Have you seen that? Is that something that can be marketed? Since we're going to do a body farm, I think, on that, which will be unique in the U.S.
I don't think we know what a body farm is.
We're going to be planting corpses.
That's unique. We call that a graveyard where I'm from. Yeah, okay, so you're gonna, I guess I will, I've got the microphone, so I'll keep talking. We've heard about this training center, that this is where you're going to teach police and fire how to rescue people from an airplane. You can nod your head if I'm on the right track. Yes, okay, great. Look, we're pretty much serving Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, and medium-sized businesses that are, they need to open a contact center, move a corporate headquarters, build a manufacturing plant, put a data center somewhere. I can't in my career think of a time where my clients have needed that particular asset in a community. Hang on a second, wait for Josh.
Connection is, you talked about biomedical. We have 10 hospitals within 50 miles, is it? Between Oshkosh and Green Bay. And is there chance for research in that type of thing or not?
Well, the thing is with biomed, with life sciences, when they're citing R&D, having a research institution is usually the #1 factor we look at. Research institutions that have foundations and command large numbers of grants from NIH and other places. So that's a much more important asset in the cycle than hospitals. Most other places have lots of hospitals as well. Maybe not as great a hospital as you have. I know you've got some of the top-rated hospitals in Wisconsin right here. I think that's fabulous. It's not a big differentiator for our clients. And that's just the sad reality.
Other questions or comments? In the back, Raleigh?
I heard quite a bit about data mining, and I'm just wondering, who do you hold in high esteem for accurate data when you're data mining? What companies do you push to?
So sources that you guys respect, if we're going to go and find that data, sources.
Yeah, so I can start with that. I think most of us up here, because we do this on a daily basis, we all spend a lot on third-party data, whether that's independent sources we subscribe to. It might be packaging up the government data so that we can compare places on a apples-to-apples basis. In terms of domestic site selection, I think certainly anything that comes from a government agency, the Census Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I think some of the factors that we've talked about around industry presence and even occupational presence, some of your advantages can be proven out through those types of data. But the thing that I will add to that is part of who you're marketing to may not have the luxury of all that data. So there might be people sitting in Germany, corporate executive who needs a new plant in the US that is just going directly to websites, and they're going to be looking for some more of that, what we would call basic information, but your demographics, your major employers, some of that stuff that we might have handy in databases. So I think when you're constructing your website and kind of building that message, it needs to cater to a wide range of audiences, not only us sitting up here who might have a lot of that information already, but also people who don't have a lot of that at their fingertips.
If there is one final question, we'll take it, and then I think we have to say adieu to our guests, get them to their planes, but apparently we have a question right here.
All right, this is another database question. As a small business owner and other small, medium-sized businesses, you guys are all very data-driven. What can we do to kind of contribute to that data pool so that the information, things that I do, what I produce, and what other people produce, how that can make it onto your radar?
Make sure you're talking to Shannon. Make sure she understands. Now, this goes to every business actually in the area, because we represent a small fraction of the activity that you should have over time. Shannon and her team as the paid professionals representing your region, need to know as much as possible about your community. You are the product she sells and her team. So the more she is able to know about what you do, the better off she's going to be at conveying that. And depending on the situation, it may be of significant value to us. Again, it could be a niche situation, or it could be a very broad situation, but make sure that they know. So also, I'm going to end with this, that when she requests information that you may consider odd or just very, short turnaround, there's a purpose for that. There's a reason for that. Unfortunately, our clients don't always plan very well, so their turnaround time is very short, which compresses our time.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here this afternoon. Gentlemen up here, we appreciate your evaluation, your comments, your attention to what you've seen. And we wish you the best safe trip back to your destinations, and we'll be in touch to provide you the data that you need to market the Fox Cities to your clients. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.